Beautiful, Sarah. Welcome to the Abundance Club. It's such a delight to have you here. I just want to start by saying that your work has been a guiding light for so many. And more recently, I've actually found myself deeply moved by some of your Substack pieces. I think I said this to you before we hit record, like the honesty and the rawness and the way that you are so beautifully naming the season of life that you are moving through, and honestly that so many are moving through alongside you, and you speak to that with such clarity and grace, which is deeply refreshing and just shows your authenticity. So that really spoke to some of the deepest parts of me, which is why I reached out to have this conversation. And I'm sure it has for many who are, deeply influenced by your work. So what I love about this at the moment and what you've been sharing is particularly this reminder that manifestation isn't just about the moments where everything feels aligned and is falling into place, and we're in that receiving season and the harvest, and there's ease and prosperity and recognition flowing in, and all of the things. But it's also, and probably even more powerfully, like about who we're becoming in the quiet, in the in between chapters, in the spaces where it feels like our identity is shifting, where things feel uncertain, where our energy is rearranging, like before the next chapter, before the breakthrough arrives. And I think teaching others how to navigate that, like how to be in that season, is so needed. So I just want to start by just thanking you for continuing to show up even when life is testing you. And I know what that feels like when you just kind of want to be able to sometimes hide in a little cave, but we show up because it's the way that you're called to be of service and your mission. So I just want to honor that. And to begin with, just hear from you around, you've shared that you're moving through your own season of deep uncertainty right now. So can you speak, I guess, to what that chapter is really teaching you at the moment, and how your understanding of that role of uncertainty is really shaping the next chapter of your life, or what role that plays in manifesting the next season of your
Mm,
life?
I love that. Well, first off, let me say thank you. It's so great to be here to have this conversation. I'm so honored to be able to be asked this question as well, because so often many people just want to skim over the top and they want to see the highlights and they want to know about the millions of dollars that have been generated or the viral videos that have been created. But behind the scenes, I've been doing this a long time now. I've been a manifestation teacher for nearly 20 years.
Mm.
And so this isn't my first round of uncertainty. That's the path and the purpose of this work. That what it does is it's the universe inviting you into deep initiation.
Mm.
And so when I was younger, when I was in like my late 20s, when I was going through my first marriage and the breakdown of that, I felt like it was happening to me, not for me. And so I required a lot of maturing over the years to get to that next level of uncertainty. And I think so many of us go through those waves where we think that life is happening to us, not for us. And we forget that, well, maybe this is good for me. Maybe I needed this. And for me, and just to give everyone a little bit of background, I was married for another 10 years in my second marriage, and I left. And now I am pretty much starting from a foundational level of uncertainty, going through divorce, custody issues, all that kind of stuff, building my business again from the ground up and figuring out how I want to teach. And I think this is also a rite of passage as a woman and as an intuitive, that so often we go through these initiations as a way to come home to ourselves.
Deeply.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and so what I've noticed is like there are dark days. There are days where I just feel like, this is so overwhelming. Why is this happening? But then I allow the tears to happen because
Mm.
I'm human. And having the privilege and the deep honor of sharing this with my audience, it does show something real that I don't feel like I've been able to share over
Mm.
the years.
Mm.
I've always kept it very polished and glamorous. I've lived in some incredible homes. I lived in Las Vegas, I lived in the Hamptons, and there was always something going on. And now, this phase of my life, I live in a little two-bedroom apartment and I feel so abundant. There are these new abundance codes that are being unlocked within me because of my willingness to face the disowned parts of myself.
Mm. Talk to me a little bit more about that because I think that that is so important. You know, as you're speaking, Sarah, I can feel and I can relate to this myself. And I think that's why what you've been sharing, you know, when it strikes a chord, there's a resonance, right?
Hmm.
Like it's like I can see that, I can feel that. And I've gone through seasons of having a business for 15 years, selling it, and so I understand not only that being in the void, but feeling like there's a stripping back and you're back at that foundational level. And you had moments, you know, had the season of like the ease and the flowing and all of that. And then you're meeting this part, and there's a part of you that resists it so much, and that there's another part of you that's guiding you forward. So you spoke about really honoring and meeting those disowned parts of you. Can you speak a bit more about how important that is in this process?
Yeah, and especially as women, as mothers, as partners,
Mm.
we so often put everything else above ourselves. And so my body started speaking to me in the times where I knew that I needed to stand up for those disowned parts of myself. I needed to pay attention because it's a really high price to pay when you ignore those signs and symptoms.
Mm.
Intuitively, I knew I need the next season of my life to begin. And so when I started doing that, things started changing. And at the same time, I had to write this book.
Mm.
So I had to, I, I landed the book contract, but yet I was still living under the same roof as my ex-husband. And so what that was an opportunity to write this beautiful book. It says a year of mini meditations to manifest your best life. And when you're going through a divorce, like that's the last thing on your mind that
Yeah.
you want to write. But at the same time, it's a beautiful invitation into realness because I had to write the book that I knew would help to heal other women that are going through a similar situation. And so I had to do it day by day. I had to show up to my computer. I had to get my word count done. And I was just in tears. You know, there's lots of negotiations and energetic back and forths when you're navigating the new dynamic of how to move forward. And so this book, I'm so proud of it because when it came time to record the audiobook version, it was like oh, this is why I wrote it. I couldn't even remember writing it at that time. It was
Yeah.
like this almost like getting in a time machine and going, oh, this is what it's about, embodiment.
Yeah. And I think that that is so felt. You know, you spoke about like people often want to see, they just want to see the steps or they want to see the shiny and as a manifestation teacher myself, none of that has ever well, I guess in times it's interested me, but now all I want to know now is like can you walk through the fire? Can you meet yourself in the uncertainty when other things fall away and who is it that you are becoming in the process because that is the greatest manifestation of all and everything you know essentially is a byproduct of that everything is just icing on the cake but you
Mhm.
you are the cake who you're becoming who you're allowing yourself to become in this process what are you learning about that for you in the incredible challenges that you have been through but you're understanding that this is and I love the way that you use the word the initiation.
Mm.
I guess what I want to say first of all before we dive into that because I've got all of these questions like
Yeah.
do you feel, talk about sometimes how this can feel like we're just at a whole new level of the game. I know you've been through different, you talk about being
Yeah.
through different seasons of uncertainty. This isn't the
Mhm.
first one. So does
Mm.
it feel like this level of preparation or initiation is kind of taking you to a whole nother level? And within that, do you feel like
Mm.
some of the tools, and perhaps this is why you've written that book, some of the tools that maybe you've used previously aren't working? It's almost like I can't manifest my way out of this. I have to really meet this season. Can you speak a little bit about
I
that?
can. I can. It's a different level of skills that are required to go into it. So I think when you are faced with hardship and I look at previous seasons of uncertainty, it's a different set of skills that met that. It's almost like I was very naive, but this set of skills required for this season has shown me that I'm very resilient and that you can adapt and you can pivot. And what I can see as that being useful is how I can help my clients, how I can help to grow my business, how I can help to lead the way forward for my children. It's almost like it moves from um, ego into service, if that makes sense. It's like it shifts it. And it's, I think that as a manifestation teacher, and you know this too, Amy, that you do go through these seasons of initiation so that you can serve at that deeper level and meet people where they're at.
Mm.
So, whereas like my first season of uncertainty, I could only meet people so far as they've met themselves. And now it's like there's this full spectrum of, okay, I get it now. And what I noticed, and I've always been highly emotional. My mother would be the first person to tell me that, I'm always, the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. And it's learned, this season has taught me how to utilize my emotions as an act of strength in the moments that they're required.
Mm.
And
Mm.
it's almost like a new metaphysical tool that I'm just starting to see how that impacts now energetically. Because how we hold our energy and our vibration now impacts the timelines as they shift. And as you go through these seasons of uncertainty, these quantum shifts, these timeline shifts happen so quickly. And my
Mm.
feet haven't even touched the ground yet. So
Mm.
it's like two different worlds, two different identities, two different versions of me. I'm always at this pivotal choice point of, okay, if I choose to manage my emotions in this way, this will happen. It's like a choose your own adventure book.
Yeah.
Remember those? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
so if I react like this now and I explode and I hold on to this like feeling of resentment and I'm unable to forgive, this will manifest down the track. It's almost like I have
Yeah.
this logical forecasting system.
Yeah, so like you're choosing then that timeline where that's going to
Yeah,
be the inevitability of that choice point. And
yeah.
so I guess what I'm understanding is you're learning the power in being able to meet yourself in those emotions and choose other ways, and that's the quantum leap, right? This is the shift, this is the timeline shift, and we get that choice. So I'd love for you to go into that a little bit more because
Mm,
this is real empowerment, right?
mhm,
This is moving from this, why is this happening to me? Life is happening to me. This is so unfair. And it's easy to
mm,
spiral into that.
mhm.
And I think we become a little more nuanced and I guess advanced in being able to go, you know what, I can see that. I can see that potential to spiral, but I'm going to sit with the discomfort and choose this at any rate. Like, how do we become more equipped in being able to make those choices that are ultimately for our highest good and our highest timeline?
It's about trusting too, trusting in the divine timing of things. Because if you're going through something difficult, you have to trust that what's on the other side of that difficult season is worth the patience, is worth the heartache, is worth all of the uncertainty. Because it's literally building momentum, and we can't see it. And as human beings, we want proof. Like, okay, well, I've done the hard yards now. Where's my stuff? But it doesn't work like that. You have to realize that it's a gift. And so many gifts unfold when you are dealing with the energetics of uncertainty.
Yeah, yeah. And you've mentioned whilst going through this and some of the challenges, obviously separation and challenges around divorce and things like that, and business challenges and all of that. But there's also been some beautiful moments of manifestation for you that have also come out of that, which I think is so glorious. Do you want to share a little bit more
I
about
do.
that? Yeah.
I do. Well, love found me unexpectedly. I wasn't looking for it. And it was like I'd done so much inner work first. And I think that so often people think, well, you need a certain amount of time to heal before you go into a relationship. And they make assumptions that you haven't had the time to heal or to acclimatize. And for me, I'm taking things very slowly, but I have met an incredible man and he's wonderful. He was the audio engineer on my book.
Mm.
He landed a job for HarperCollins.
Oh my
And so
gosh,
he built me a
amazing.
recording studio and we got to work together. And I think that tested kind of like the parameters of, our patience for each other and things like that. But I mean, it's obviously, like a new season of my life. And I'm very, very conscious though that I needed to be who I am fully before I could allow another person into my life.
Mm, mm,
Because so often, and this is probably going back to when I was a young girl, I'd hand my power over to men in relationships. And I'm not willing to do that anymore. And John, my partner, he's the first to say he would never want that. Like he would never want that responsibility. He's so supportive and there's no competition, there's no struggle for energy. It just is. And I think the most beautiful things happen when there's this sense of just isness. It
mm.
it just it is.
Mm.
So yeah.
It's so beautiful and it's just, sometimes we need those little signs from the universe that we are on the right path, like to keep going and you get glimpses of a life that is unfolding here. And you
Mm,
spoke about, there are those times when you might want to just hide away and stay under the covers and not keep showing up. And I think that
mm,
many of us meet this because there is a lot of uncertainty when we choose this path of soul evolution, when we choose to come into our alignment with our true self. It's not easy, right?
mm,
As you've mentioned, there's relationships that fall away. There's people that will drop off. There's things that are going to no longer be in alignment with that old identity. So what for you, Sarah, keeps you getting up and showing up with such courage and vulnerability in the way that you are today that maybe you wouldn't have, I don't know, 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago, whenever that is.
That's a beautiful question. It's it's knowing that there are other women going through the same thing right now. And that's what keeps me going because I always read my comments. I always see the other women that say, "Oh, I'm going through this too," or "I've been where you are and I've come out the other side." And I can either see how it helped to nurture and nourish them or it really derailed them. It was
Mm.
really like the heartbreak of their life. And I'm at that choice point now that this is going to define me for the rest of my life. And it will also help to define my girls. Like I don't want my girls to see me as a mess, crying on the floor, going, "Oh, I wish I could change the situation." I want them to see their mum stepping up and stepping forward and speaking for those who, especially the women that have handed their power over.
Mm. So
And I think
beautiful.
that it's so important. We live in a time where everyone has to play in their own lane. If you're in a partnership, it should be a sacred partnership where you're both equals and it's a mutual support system.
Mm. Mm. And you're calling that in and it's so beautifully. Like I think that is the testament, right? It's like he's become John for you, and that relationship has
Hmm.
has become just the evidence of your own becoming, right? To be able to draw that in, to be able to become a match for that you've done
Hmm.
that. And I think that is so beautiful. And you're right. And I think particularly when we have girls, I've got a daughter myself, and we don't want to hide anymore. And so we realize that standing in our truth, as you said, like not handing over our power. And I think that this is such a huge one for women. It's
Hmm.
remembering who you are, remembering that you have agency, that you have sovereignty, that is such a gift for future generations. And such also, as you spoke about, the other women who might reach out and resonate with what you're saying and really deeply need it. And I think that we're moving through a really testing time. Life is being
Hmm.
shaken up and it's going to continue over the coming years. And we're not here to do it alone. I think this is what the beauty of these transmissions and podcasts and having communities and having like a book like you've written, having those resources is what gets us through it, right? We
Yeah,
don't we
it
don't do
is.
it in silence. And we have that and you've been that for me as you do for
Mhm.
many. And I think that yeah, you're absolutely right. That's what it's and it's that bigger mission that you know that your soul has signed up for and
Mhm.
the way that you are being led. And I think it's really important to speak to this with regards to manifestation because I think that, there's a lot of manifestation teachers out there and it can be easy to look at others and think, oh, they've done this, they've achieved this, they've manifested this. There's something wrong with me if you're in this season where it feels like nothing's happening, where it feels like you're just in that, I think you call it like that blurry middle.
Mhm.
Can you speak
Mhm.
a little bit more about that and how we discern the difference between, I guess, being in the void that's a necessary part of the process versus, I don't know, being out of alignment?
Oh, I think it boils down to comparison too. And especially like in the glamorous world of social media, sometimes we think that everything is as it appears and it's not.
Mm.
And I think we need to remember that everyone's human, everybody's on their own journey. And so when you do find yourself in that blurry, why aren't things the way that you want them to be, break it down. And I think for me, it's about being of service. And then for me, selfishly, it's about joy. and in experiencing that joy, real, tangible joy,
Mm.
not lofty ideas or things that I aspire to, or always hustling to be somewhere else. I spent years doing that, Amy. You know, always on like this, it was almost like a never-ending treadmill
Mm.
of trying to keep up to the role of manifesting teacher. When really what life and God and the universe wanted me to do was to be this kind of a manifesting teacher that could walk the talk with other people and that could have that grounded authenticity because that's where the true manifestation is. And there are so many other manifestation teachers out there that are like, even AI bots that are like, you can manifest the life of your dreams. And it's like, no, we're doing something that AI will never be able to replace.
Mm.
And that's
Mm.
reminding people of their feelings, their emotions, their integrity, their inspired action, and their sovereignty.
Mm. And that's what's lasting, Sarah, right? Like I talk about that as well. I'm like, if you're looking for like a flash in the pan, quick manifestation, I'm not your manifestation teacher for that, right? I'm
Mhm.
here to walk you through your becoming so that is lasting, so that the manifestations are inevitable, right? They're inevitable because you fully align with the truth of who you are. And I think it's almost like I know for me, I'm 44 now, and I feel like half of my life has prepared me, right?
Yeah.
And I've operated like you in a season where it was about achieving and hustling and just wanting to
Hmm.
grow. And then when you meet that void on the other side of it, and you're like, actually, what is it that matters? What not only like what do I want, but why? Why do I want that? And I think
Mm.
those deeper questions are so important and so enriching. And as you said about joy, like joy and presence. And I think that so often we're after the thing, the shiny
Hmm.
object or the accolade, and we're not actually looking at is that actually what we want? Like what is it that we are searching for? So I'd love to know for you, like what's your manifestation right now? What are you
Mm.
really calling in? And how does that differ to maybe how you've been manifesting for the first part of your life?
The first 46 years.
Yeah,
No, well,
yeah.
it's actually it's in waves. So I'm actually finding because I learned about manifestation when I was 8 years old. I
Mm.
find that I'm reverting more back to when I was eight and I was seeing the power of our emotions and our thoughts and our feelings versus when I became a manifestation teacher, it was more about the look at the stuff and this is the lifestyle that I'm living. And I really fell into that trap. And now it's like for manifesting in the future, it's remembering that everything is energy. What is meant for you will manifest. And that everything that I need or would even want to manifest is here right now in this moment.
Yeah, that's so powerful, right? It's
Yeah.
that because we're shifting then out of lack. I think,
Yes,
so much of the manifestation teachings come from a place of not enoughness, right? Come from a
exactly.
place of something missing.
Hmm.
And when we can shift that, as you say, you're realizing that everything is here now. What you're essentially saying is, what I'm hearing is that you're returning to your wholeness.
Hmm.
And manifesting from that place is so gracious and so beautiful and aligns you with everything that actually is, as you said, is meant for you rather than what the ego thinks it
Yeah.
needs.
Yeah, I mean, I've lived in some incredible homes, like in the Hamptons and things like that. And now I live in a two-bedroom apartment. There are four little blocks here. I have a pond and the woods that I look out over, and I feel
Mm.
so abundant. And so
Mm.
I noticed the difference. I'm more connected and grateful here in this almost like a contraction. And I want to speak to that too, because life is about contraction and expansion. And that's this season is a little bit of a contraction before the next manifestation that I'm preparing for, which is expansion. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but I'm excited. And I think it's cultivating that energy of excitement for what's next that is really going to be the difference between it manifesting and not manifesting, or perhaps being further contraction. And
Mm.
so we just have to go through it. Anything that's birthed into life comes from the contraction. Everything.
Yeah. I mean, we look at the in breath and the out breath, right?
Hmm.
And that's so beautiful. And I can see and feel for you that it's going to be incredible, like better than you could have ever imagined. Because I know how you are meeting it with such grace and presence. And that's going to prepare you for something truly magnificent. And I just think that that is such powerful, powerful teachings and reminders. There was something that you said within that that I wanted to speak to, but I don't know. It's lost me at the moment. It will probably come back around that. I'd love to know, and you mentioned about going back to manifesting more as your 8-year-old self. And you mentioned about, the feeling of our emotions and our
Mm,
emotions being portals. And I think all of this comes back to like really being in our heart as well. We know that we've got this
mm,
electromagnetic field that is our heart. And if we're not letting ourselves feel those emotions, we're not accessing the currents that run through our heart, which I think is so beautiful. Can you speak a little bit more about that? And I'd also be interested to know, because you have been a manifestation teacher for so long, and I have been consciously manifesting since I was about 15, 16 as well.
mhm.
Who were your earlier influences? Like who were the people that you looked up to around manifestation that maybe you were introduced to in a younger age? Do you have any of those, people that come to mind, or how do you feel that you knew that this was going to be part of your
Mm.
journey and your life's work?
Well, I read The Game of Life and How to Play It when I was
Mm.
8. So that was like my first one, the movie
Wow. It's
classic
been
my
around for
parents
a
established.
while.
And it
Yeah.
has. So, and my parents, both of them, very spiritual in their awareness of, thoughts create things. And then when I was around 19, I started studying meditation. And I had a teacher, and the teacher was instructing me about how to use my mind to have specific outcomes and things like that. But that wasn't really what stuck. It was really around when The Secret came out in 2006, I think it was, that I started, really tuning into the law of attraction. And there was always people like Tony Robbins back in the day, and all of those kind of names that would in the personal development industry. And I've been fortunate enough over the years to meet many of those people, and
Mm,
especially teachers from The Secret.
mm,
And
mm.
it's mind blowing to me to see these people though go through their own journeys and change and develop over the years. And so it's like that reminder of the pedestal. You can't have
Yeah.
that when
Yeah.
we're on this journey. It's not like, okay, so I remember meeting somebody that had sold so many millions of books. And then their next book wasn't as successful. And I was like, well, how do you feel about that? And he's like, well, it's fine. And so it's like we all have our mindset challenges. We
Mm.
all have them and our limitations about what we think is amazing or impressive or successful. And the truth is, we all define success differently.
Yeah. Yeah. How are you defining it now for you?
Right now, day by day.
Yeah.
It kind of changes. And I
Mm.
think that success for me is knowing that I'm in alignment with my core values, knowing that my children know that I love them no matter what, and that we're connected no matter the distance, knowing that I'm doing my best in this situation, that showing up and promoting a book when you're going through a divorce is incredibly difficult.
Mm.
But at the same time, a great opportunity to walk the talk. So it's like, I couldn't have planned
Yeah.
this more perfectly myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you see that? Do you I know we can go through these times of like, it's hard not to go through those moments of like, why is this happening to me? Why can't this
Yeah,
just be more easeful? Why can't Do you feel the divine unfolding within all of this?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do. I've had to have several appearances in like the family court system and all that kind of stuff. And on the wall, it says in this beautiful old building, "In God we trust." And
Yeah.
it's like it's a place where you think, oh, there's not much divine energy going on here. But the reality is, there's a quote that I love, and I don't know who to attribute it to, but it is, "Show me where God is not."
Yeah. I love
And that
that.
makes like the most awful situations seem at least palatable.
So powerful. Like God is in everything, in
Everything, yeah.
everything, in
Yeah.
everything. Yeah. Yeah.
And everyone. And
And
that's sometimes
everyone.
and that's sometimes very difficult to remember as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, I mean, so, so beautiful. And you mentioned, and I think it's such a potent reminder as well, in that like we don't see, and not everybody shares what they're going through, but no one is immune from this because we're here. We're here on
Hmm.
this earth plane. And so this is our soul's curriculum. We're going to go through these challenges.
Yeah.
And, you mentioned The Secret, and I know some of those teachers in that as well who have just been
Hmm.
so influential. And I think and I'm speaking to this again because I just think it's so important. Your vulnerable sharing is what meets people, is what helps others to continue on. And I think that is such a gift, but it is also rare. Not many people will share that. They'll want to wait till they're on the other side of it and go, look, this is how it
Yeah.
worked out. And you are sharing from the messy in between, from the unknown. And you are that teacher of someone's becoming. And I think that the seer, that guide in that time, and you are being guided yourself. And I think that is so, so beautiful. When we look
Mm.
at, the secret and the law of attraction,
Mm.
what do you feel now, having come through all of that and being where you are now? What do you feel was perhaps missing from that if you look back and you're seeing in the way that manifestation works from this really embodied place? What do you see was kind of maybe a missing piece there for you?
Well, it's a great starter piece. I think
Yeah.
that's what's
Yeah.
great. It opens up very gently somebody's world to the responsibility that you create your own reality, which can be very daunting for many people.
Mm, mm,
But for me, what I could see was missing was possibly more understanding of vibration and energetics and
yeah.
how there are subtle nuances. So, talking about authenticity and sharing my story, there's so much I don't share. I
Mm,
can share from my perspective, and I've been through this. When I left my first marriage, I was oversharing everything. And there was a lot of collateral damage behind the scenes with that, with my older children, with my first ex-husband, and things like that. And I don't want to go into those this time. So it's the subtle nuances of those energetics
mm, mm.
that manifest something different. And you can do that in your own life too with your own story. How much are you sharing your story from a place of victimhood versus a place of the intention to thrive
Yeah.
and for everyone to thrive?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's the difference. It's you do it with real grace, and I think that that's a real skill as well. And so you're a teacher in that way for so many. And I love that you share, what you shared then with the secret. But so tell me about your book. Let's talk about your book because
Sure.
you mentioned writing this whilst going through this season and having to show up,
Hmm.
but it also being the book that you didn't realize that you needed, right? Up until now, it's like, I can see the perfection in that. So, what is your intention with it, and how do you feel it can really support people in navigating their own journey of
Mm.
life and whatever season they're in?
So it's well, it's a year of mini meditations. So there's 365 different power words, and
Mm,
each power word is intended to be a word that you embody the energy of each day. And each month has a theme. So writing the relationship and connection month was so difficult. It was like, oh my goodness, who am I to write this right now
mm,
when I'm, actively choosing to exit out of this union. But again, it showed me that you have to push through. And so the whole idea is that this book embodies active faith. You may not feel it, but it's something to aim for. And I feel like, with social media doom scrolling that we do all the time, and hours can pass and people are on TikTok and all that kind of stuff, this gives you something that every day there's something spiritual that you're feeding your field with,
mm,
that you're actively connecting, because sometimes meditation can be a lot for people with their spiritual practice.
mm, mm.
And
And I
so
think
it
it's so
really,
beautiful.
yeah.
Like you're choosing your frequency, right? Rather
Yes,
than it being chosen for you based on your programming, based on, whatever's being broadcast in your field, but
yeah.
you are actually choosing and that is so, so powerful.
Yeah, and so you can use it as like an oracle resource if you want to open it up and let the universe decide which message you need versus taking it day by day, month by month. And and I think with the energy of vibration in there, the vibrational awareness. And so what you'll see when you read the book is that each and every day is presence. I made it less about me. There's hardly any stories in there about me, which is very different to my previous books,
Mm,
where it's been like spilly and oversharing and like the nitty gritty details, which people love, but people love the drama
mm,
without actually wanting to dive into the presence element. And so my goal with this book is to get people to see like the magical colors of a sunrise, or to feel the stillness of the morning air, or watch the seasons change
Mm.
because we're so disconnected and unplugged and on screens all the time.
Yeah. And it's the power of presence, really. You know, it's and I talk about this quite a lot as well. Like everything here at the moment in the world is to bring us out of ourselves
Hmm.
and is to outsource our authority and our guidance. And we're seeing this more and more that we're not trusting or
Yep.
learning or understanding how to utilize our and strengthen our own channel and our own compass because we have access to all the answers and the solution
Hmm.
right here, like, but we just don't tune our own radio station, we tune into other people's and other broadcasts. So I understand the power of just that presence in and it can be really simple to begin with in just coming back and really meeting yourself and then
Hmm.
setting your frequency, tuning your dial, like the first thing to do every day. So I think that that's so beautiful. And people love things that are mini and that are bite sized, particularly if you're feeling like overwhelmed in life and you don't have time to dive into
Yeah.
the big books and the big practices. And we want it to be able to be kind of in those micro moments. So is that how you've designed it as well to be able to?
Yeah, so you've done something that day,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's like having a green juice or something like that, just to know that you've got something good in your system that's going to help support you throughout your day.
Yeah, beautiful. So great. So I will put all of the details and the links in the show notes to buy that. That's available now, is it, Sarah?
It comes out next month
Okay,
on December.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
amazing. One of the other things I want to talk about, because I get asked this question quite a bit as well, and I think a lot of people are feeling like, what to do when it feels like their manifestations aren't working. Like when you
Hmm.
feel like, and I'm no doubt you've been here before, right? I'm doing all of the work, I'm doing all of the practices, all of the tools, but nothing is happening, right? So from
Yeah.
your perspective, why do manifestations sometimes appear to stall? Why is there this time delay? What is happening energetically during
Hmm.
these times? Can you share a bit about that?
Yeah, you're being prepared.
Yeah.
And it's not that you're not ready, it's that it's the invitation to become ready.
Mm,
And I think there's a really subtle distinction in that awareness that so often we think, well, where's my stuff? Where's my lake house? Where's my, whatever it is. And then you realize that this is the journey to get there. It's not about the stuff, and you're not doing anything wrong because sometimes you can't understand the pieces. The universe is rearranging the energy behind the scenes to make everything perfect.
mm,
And maybe not so much perfect, but perfect for you.
yeah.
What's a perfect match and in alignment for you will manifest. It always has, and it always will. And I invite anybody that's feeling that struggle to look back on their lives and think about the things that have worked out well.
Mm,
What got them to that point? And more often than not, it's surrendering, it's letting go, it's trusting the journey. And then all of a sudden, oh, look at, wouldn't you know it? It's all working out for the best.
mm,
But we
mm,
can't see that. And even when it's not working out for the best or you're faced with the illusion of failure, keep believing beyond what you can see because it's that final little hurdle of belief that is sometimes this little sneaky trick from the universe. I've seen this happen so many times with my clients. They'll give up and then it'll be like, but I was just about to give up and then it happened.
yeah. Yeah. I've spoken to that before. I had Rona Lazari on the podcast earlier in the year, and she was talking about, I think she's even written a book like one more. It's the next exit. We often turn off right before
Yes,
that
too
next
soon.
exit. So speak
Yeah.
about this final energetic piece. You mentioned about the surrender and the letting go,
Hmm.
which is, we're told to do the practices and the tools and people can be doing all of that, but sometimes that can keep us separate from it because we're not believing that it's here, and that piece of surrender can be so powerful in closing that gap.
Hmm. It creates resistance. If you do too many rituals, too many practices, too many of the things, or you're trying to throw money at the solution, it's going to create resistance. You have to just peel it back to basics and then kind of go with that flow of the intention, but hold the vision, hold the belief that it's going to work out for the best.
Mm.
And also, and this is one of my favorite affirmations right now, is that the best is yet to come.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that because it gives you this sense of relief within, like, okay, I've been through the worst of it and the best is yet to come. And so no matter what the universe hits you with, because sometimes, things happen, you've at least got that's yours, that knowing that the best is yet to come.
Yeah. It just keeps getting better and better. Yeah,
Hmm.
and I think also with that, right, being open to the unexpected, being open to it being different to what you are expecting it to be, like allowing the universe to surprise you
Hmm.
beyond logic, beyond reason. I think sometimes we try to micromanage it with our logical mind about, well, it has to come in this way without remembering, without realizing that often there's a far greater plan and unfolding. And have you found that in your life when you look back at your manifestations? You're like, there's no way I could have logicized
No.
this.
Mm-mm. No, it's so strange. I think to myself, if you'd have told me maybe 3 years ago that I'd be living in Wisconsin with a new partner and living the way that I do now with a book coming out, but yet all of these other exciting opportunities and experiences and things that are going on behind the scenes, I would have said, oh no, that's not true. How's that going to happen?
Yeah.
But yet at the time that the marriage was dismantling, I there were a lot of painful things that unfolded, a lot of ways that I had to meet myself where I didn't see them as good for me. I saw them as something that was breaking me. I
Mm.
saw that, these things can appear like betrayal when you feel betrayed, when something happens that you don't want to happen. And you don't see it as a gift because it's actually showing you and clearing the path for what's truly meant for you.
Mm. And it's that delicate dance, isn't it, between letting yourself feel the human emotions of anger, of pain, of disappointment, of grief, and then
Hmm.
also being in almost a space of like seeing it as a gift. So, having gratitude for that,
Yeah,
because obviously if you hadn't been through that, you never would have met John. If you haven't, we've all got those situations. If I didn't get fired from that job, I never would have taken this
yeah.
leap here. But yet we don't want to bypass it. As you said, we need to be able to really feel the loss and the disappointment. How do you navigate that delicate dance?
I'm trusting that it's there. And then when it does arrive, it's like, ooh, okay, am I going to jinx this? This is too good to be true. Maybe it is. You just have to trust in the unfolding, that
Mm,
it really is a day by day, meet it as it happens, and realize that you are in the driver's seat of your own reality. And
mm,
that we do so many things thinking that we're doing it for other people, when really the best thing that we can do is do these things for ourselves. It's not selfish, it's
yeah.
self-care.
Yeah, it's that requirement. And if everybody did that, can you imagine, right? If
Oh,
everybody
it's so good.
took care of themselves in that way and met themselves in that way. So for you then right now in understanding, you've spoken a lot about the trust and the surrender and taking one day at a time and the fact
Hmm.
that we can overdo the manifestations that can shift us into the resistance. So what for
Hmm.
you at the moment is your daily, if any, practice or ritual? Or is it just putting one foot in front of the other, breathing and connecting
Yeah.
with your heart? Like, what does that look like for you in this season?
It's actually a lot of creativity. And this is where it goes back to like connecting with 8-year-old me. And then also like being in the same kind of wavelength as my two younger children who are 8 and 10. It's like, well, how do they process their emotions? I've seen them and it's like all over my house right now, the artwork that they've created. And then
Mm,
allowing myself to be that creative expression of whether it's drawing or painting or writing something or recording a podcast. That's really my spiritual practice, or creating meditations, which has been amazing for
mm,
me,
mm,
very healing, crying if I need to, watching a lot of comedy shows, doing the things that engage in um, loosening up a little bit, being lighthearted, not taking things so seriously,
mm.
not studying and going, am I doing this perfectly? Is there a checklist that I need to adhere to of like the divorced woman's list of grief that I have to check off? It's not that. It's just being gentle and kind to myself.
Mm.
And sometimes even just watching no shows on Netflix if I want to.
That's so beautiful because you mentioned about, your manifestation practice has shifted to back how you were when you were 8. And, and that's what we did. And in a way, I think it's beautiful because your girls are like a teacher for you as well
Hmm.
at the moment in how to do that. And I think that that's so refreshing. And what I'm seeing with that as well is that's just completely clarifying your channel and
Hmm.
the way that you are moving through this, and I really relate to this, Sarah, the way that you're moving through the challenges is continuing to be of service,
Hmm.
continuing
Yeah.
to realize that this is not only for me, this is for those who I'm here to serve.
Yes.
This chapter is not just about how you're being refined, but it's also about how you can lead and serve others by navigating this in that way. So I think creativity is such a beautiful outlet and such a potent reminder too, because often when we logicize this, we think, I'm not doing enough of the have to do another vision board. I have to do
Yeah. Get rid
100
of the
more
guilt. Yeah.
affirmations. I have to
Yeah.
journal this.
No.
And it's
There should be no
simplifying.
pressure, no pressure whatsoever. I mean,
Yeah.
if you could, you need to approach your manifestations. If there were no rules and there were no obligations, how would you be? Who are you being? Not who are you becoming, but who are you being right now?
Right now. Yeah.
And what do you want to do? And then that's when you release that resistance. When you laugh, until your face hurts, that kind
Yeah.
of laughter, it releases the resistance. When you
Yeah.
spend time with your loved ones, it releases the resistance. If you spend time in nature, you're releasing that resistance. So, what can you do more of that will do that? Because when you do that, you get out of your own way. And I literally make more sales in my business when I'm not in front of my computer and that I'm doing something
Yeah. Yeah.
something else
Yeah.
rather than what's that old proverb, the watch pot never boils kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you need to
Yeah.
do that because that gets you out of your way and then the universe can do its work.
And you're in that receiving energy, right?
Yes.
You're in
Yes.
your feminine receiving energy rather than I think we've both been through seasons where we've been more in the masculine output and the
Oh, yeah.
masculine controlling.
Yeah.
And it feels like, for both of us, and I'm sure for many who are listening to this podcast, the invitation right now is to come back into how we were designed as women
Hmm.
to move through life and to birth in this new era where
Mm.
we are creating via our being and our energy and our frequency. And as you said,
Hmm.
if we're more in the control and the doing, we're in the resistance, and the
Hmm.
pathway is receivership. And it's like, which one are you going into, the resistance or the receivership? What makes you feel like you're receiving? Like, take a bubble bath in the middle of the day, or, you know,
Yeah.
like all of that.
That's the way to do it. It's the way to do it. And if it doesn't feel good or you feel that rigidity inside of your body, pause.
Yeah.
And but then at the same time, when you bring that awareness, you might be thinking, oh, well, I'm going to mess this up too. So the more you can distract yourself, the better.
Yeah. Beautiful. Such potent reminders. And I love the simplicity of it, but so, so powerful. We'll start to wrap up, and I would love to know if you could go back to the younger version of you. Maybe it's
Hmm.
10 years ago when you started out on this manifestation teaching journey or whenever it was.
Mm.
What would you say, like, what advice would you give right now, having been through what you've been, having the gift of retrospection and all of that? What would you say to that younger version of you?
Oh my gosh, that's a how long have you got? No, well, let's take it back, maybe 15, 16 years. I would say remember who you're serving and have that as the filter. And don't get distracted and don't fall into the traps of comparison and do things from your authentic self. Don't try and pretend to be anybody else because you don't
Mm,
need to.
mm.
And I also would have loved to have told my younger self, when you get a little bit older, you're not going to care so much,
Yeah.
right? Because I
Yeah.
remember like nearly 10 years ago, and there's nothing wrong with this if people get that, but like I had the hair extensions and the eyelash extensions, and
Yeah.
I used to dye my hair. Now I don't do any of that kind of stuff. And I feel so free because of that. And the younger version of me, I would have said, hey, you're going to save a lot of money if you don't do this right now.
Yeah. My daughter's 15, got nearly 16, and I say that to her all the time. And, she's probably going to have to go on her own journey with that, but I think that it's so powerful. And one of the things I would say too is like, not everyone's going to like you, not everyone's going to see you, not everyone's going to get you.
Yeah.
People are going to fall away, and that's okay. The most important thing is that you keep meeting yourself, you keep showing up for yourself,
Mm.
because I
God,
think
and I wish my mother had said that to me when I was that
yeah,
age.
yeah, yeah. And have you found that as well in these upgrades that you're going through? I mean, you've spoken about the relationship breakdown with your husband and all that. Have you
Mm.
seen it in other areas as well, in friendships that have shifted?
I
How have
have.
you? Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have. But if anything, like the women in my life, they've rallied. They're very, very strong. And there's this almost like collective wisdom that comes through to hold women
Mm,
that are in this situation. And I'm doing it myself for several of my friends. So it's like this mutual support system. But I have seen what isn't in alignment fall away, that I've seen what is in alignment rise. And
yeah.
that's what's incredible.
Yeah, so beautiful. Gosh, I have so loved this conversation,
Me too.
Sarah. I could talk to you all day because there is that level of depth and authenticity. And I think that to be a leader who leads from that place of authenticity is so needed,
Mm.
feels rarer in a world that's full of voices and algorithms and opinions and
Hmm.
broadcasts. I think that it's rare to find someone that can speak from a real truthful place of embodiment and as you do so beautifully. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Oh, thank you, Amy. That means a lot. I'm so grateful to have connected with you.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll look out for the book. This podcast, well, hopefully by the time this podcast is aired, it will be out. It'll be very soon
Mhm.
out. So I will pop all of those details in the show notes. Anywhere else that you want people to check out your work or find you or connect with you.
No, you can just look me up online. I'm sarahprout.com, Sarah Prout on most social platforms. So
Yeah, and
that's
you've
how you
got a
can find
you've
me.
got a podcast as well called
Yes.
Manifest, which is
Hmm.
great.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll pop all of these details in there. So thank you
Thank you.
so much. It's been an absolute delight.